All right, it's Sam Bushman of the Good Sheriff Richard Mack. Become a member of CSPOA.org today. We need you as part of the posse. It's one of the great solutions. America's sheriffs are the last hope, standing with the American people. One of the great solutions we have. Lawfare seems to be everywhere, Sheriff Mack. 24 states, 12 cities and counties have now sued the Trump administration for revoking the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gases, they say. Now, this is interesting. The lawsuit, led by Massachusetts, California, New York, and Connecticut, was filed on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. It challenges the EPA's repeal of the 2009 Endangerment Finding Act or whatever on carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, arguing that Trump doing that was illegal. The suit seeks to, quote, reinstate these findings and reverse the appeal or the repeal of the vehicle emissions, and the plaintiffs are including attorneys generals from various states. The governor of Pennsylvania is involved. The EPA argues that the Clean Air Act does not permit regulating vehicle emissions for climate change purposes. So that's interesting. The case, of course, may reach the Supreme Court, potentially revisiting a 2007 ruling, which identified greenhouse gases as air pollutants. And so the battle's on. Lawfare's here. 24 states, 12 cities and counties, Sheriff.
Well, Sam, I hate to throw water on all of this, but or rain on your parade here, what you're bringing up. But the EPA has no constitutional authority to exist in the first place.
Oh, so that's my quintessential point. Why are we debating this unconstitutional agency in the Supreme Court in the first place, debating what's legal and not when the whole organization is completely illegal? Instead of just abolishing the greenhouse gas lie, why didn't Trump just shut down the agency, Sheriff?
Yeah, that's what they should do. And if the states, in fact, the court should just say that. States, run your own environmental protection. Every state already has their own environmental quality bureaucracy. We have to double dip and double overload the taxpayers with all this funding, and the states can very much work together on environmental quality. And the federal government doesn't need to be in charge of any of that. And so,
wow, I like it.
In fact, Sam, if you refer to the Mack Printz Supreme Court case, Justice Scalia gives about a page and a half dissertation about the, well, I'll just quote from him. Finally, and most conclusively in the present litigation, that would be Sheriff Mack and Sheriff Printz, we turn to the prior jurisprudence of this court. Federal commandeering of state governments is such a novel phenomenon that this court's first experience with it did not occur until 1970, when the EPA promulgated regulations requiring states to do all these other things about environmental.
Oh, how did I know that was in there and bring up the perfect story, Sheriff?
I don't
Interesting. Wow. So you're telling me that the EPA was already declared bogus by your court case, and it was done so in 1970 and reiterated in your case?
But it was in the 1970s. It started in 1970 and went through to about 1975. And then when the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, this is what happened. The government declined even to defend their policies, and instead rescinded some and conceded the invalidity of those that remained, leading the Supreme Court to vacate, quote, vacate the opinions below and remand for consideration of mootness. That means they didn't even have anything to go on anymore because the government admitted that they had no authority to do it in the first place. And
what do you think? Do you think the modern court case right now, and when Trump administration sued by 24 states and 12 cities and counties, and are they going to be referring to your Supreme Court case that referred to other Supreme Court cases?
I doubt
they ought to.
They should. Yeah, I'll send it to them. Okay, we actually need to get Zach on that, don't we? But yeah, it's all there in black and white. How the EPA literally was ruled to be unconstitutional in the 1970s, and
Well, then
so
what do we
and
got to do to shut it down?
well, yeah.
I mean, couldn't
You would
Trump
think,
just point to that and shut it down and say we don't need it because we've already been told the truth on this on multiple court case results or whatever you want to call it, findings?
yeah, the finding of the court said they didn't have the authority to do it, and the EPA knew they had no authority to do it, so they just said, "Okay, we'll stop doing that if you'll let us continue to exist, we'll stop being mean."
And now what's that latest ruling? It was a couple of years ago we just got where it's like, hey, Congress creates these institutions and the downstream agencies can't create all their own regulations and do whatever they want to. I can't remember the term for that, but there's a court case that just prevented that all from happening too, right?
Yeah, it means all the bureaucracies are trying to be like the IRS, just do whatever they want.
Well, why don't we just get rid of the IRS too? If Donald Trump wants a winning argument for the midterms, listen up, buddy. This is what you do. You shut down the IRS since we have the ERS already, the External Revenue Service, based on the tariffs, which I support 1,000%, by the way. Then we don't need the IRS anymore. When are you going to shut that down? If you want something to, kick off your midterms, President Donald J. Trump, there it is, sir.
Well, let's see if this would help them. Maybe we really do need to send this to them. So this is
Amen.
Scalia's final paragraph. Listen to what Scalia says here. Okay. Although we had no occasion to pass upon the subject in Brown, later opinions of ours have made clear that the federal government may not compel the states to implement, by legislation or executive action, federal regulatory programs. States, this was already won way back and reinforced in the Mack Printz case of 1997. Federal regulatory programs. The states cannot be compelled by legislation or executive action to take on federal regulatory programs. The federal government is not your boss. Go about your duties and your work.
It's a truism that for some reason seems to be lost as we continue lawfare. And the sad part is the Trump administration doesn't understand your court case win and the prior court cases it relies on either. Because if they did, they wouldn't just be going, oh, yeah, let's get rid of the designation of, CO2 being a greenhouse gas and being really dangerous. And then there's this big lawsuit. These lawsuits are about sideshow discussions because the reality is the general government has no authority here at all, period. And the courts have ruled it more than once. And so President Trump just needs to abolish the EPA and say your lawsuit's moot next. The problem is we're getting lawfared to death. And if we're not very careful, they're going to get whacked out judges that do create Supreme Court case precedent and winnings on behalf of, oh, yeah, this EPA can say it's greenhouse gases. Congress said so back in '07 or whatever the case may be. If we're not very careful, they're going to go there. And that's why you say, hey, I went to the Supreme Court and won, and I'm grateful we did, but I don't know that I'd go there again because it's not necessary. This is what we're about to experience if we're not really careful, Sheriff. And that's why I bring this up and why I hope your case somehow gets in front of somebody somehow soon.
Yeah, it's probably the most, and Wyoming about 2 weeks ago used our case in something that they're fighting. I can't remember what it is, but they used our case. And one of my former students in high school is now in law school at ASU, and he sent me a copy of it out of the history books that quoted our case. So I know it's out there a little bit, but it's probably the most underrated and hidden case in American history. Winning at the United States Supreme Court, the only time in U.S. history where sheriffs actually sued the federal government for overreach, the Anti-Commandeering case, the state sovereignty case, and it's the most hidden case in the history of our country because the federal government wants to keep all the authority and power that they've stolen and usurped over the past 60, 70, 80 years. And so, of course, they try to hide it.
And Sheriff, I want to blame the media for a big part of this. The media keeps running around going, oh yeah, that whacked out case from 25 plus years ago was a very narrow case. It had to do with guns and sheriffs. And, it was a win for Richard Mack, but it was by the skin of his chinny chin chin. And it was very narrow and not really relevant. And that's what they try to play the game of. When you read the reality of the case, though, it is broad. It is huge. It has to do with guns and sheriffs. I agree. But that's only a tiny part of what was really laid out in this case.
Actually, and Scalia never even brought up the gun issue. He really didn't. It's a matter of whether or not the federal government has the authority to command us.
All right, we're going to give a big old shout out to President Trump in the final segment of the show today. What do you think of that? He deserves it. We'll talk about it. It's a big battle that's been going on over the country, and I want to know why more people haven't been arrested over this. We'll talk about it in seconds. President Trump installs a statue of Christopher Columbus. You got to dig it.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at CSPOA.org. That's CSPOA.org.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman of the Good Sheriff, Richard Mack, CSPOA.org. So Donald Trump installed a replica statue of Christopher Columbus outside the Eisenhower Executive Building on Sunday. I think it's great news personally. The original statue, by the way, if people don't remember, has previously been in Baltimore, Maryland, and was destroyed by Black Lives Matter back in July 4th, 2020. What a shame. I don't know how many people got arrested in that or what really happened, but we didn't hear much about it. It was fine just to destroy historical relevance and private property and everything else. The Conference of Presidents of a major Italian organization were responsible for helping reconstruct the replica. And President Ronald Reagan, just so everybody understands, originally dedicated the statue on October the 8th, 1984, and Trump expressed in a letter that he was honored to replace the Columbus statue, describing Columbus as a pivotal figure in history. And then the White House went further, so the White House, separate from the president, said that they're proud to honor Columbus for his role in America and Western history. Now, this is interesting. Former President Benjamin Harris established Columbus Day on October 21st, 1892, to celebrate this thing. And so it's a big old huge battle going on right now. Again, Black Lives Matter destroyed it. I don't know if a bunch of people got arrested or not, but they should have. But President Trump restoring it, and I give him a big, huge shout out, because whether you agree or like or dislike Christopher Columbus, it is a historical reality in America. I don't think we should destroy history and destroy what we've done. If you disagree with it, teach your reasons. If you agree with it, teach your reasons. But don't just remove reality from history. I think that's huge, and I commend President Trump. Sheriff? Oh, are you there, Sheriff? Go ahead, Sheriff Mack.
I am, but it keeps. I don't know. Is it my computer that's doing it?
I think so. Just keep talking. We can hear you great,
though.
though.
I need to try a different computer?
Nope, just keep talking. You sound great. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Well, you know, Sam, you and I talked about this when it was happening, and it was absolutely an outrage that these protesters went so violent and crazy to tear down national monuments of historical figures. You know, Sam, history is saturated with horrible things that we don't want to repeat. It's also saturated with great things that we need to learn from. And that's all about history. And there was somebody who helped colonize and discover America. And yes, at the same time, he was involved in some slavery. Well, all of their statues too.
Well, and let's be very clear. We're against any slavery by anybody. That's clear, right? You're breaking up now, Sheriff. Every one of us are against slavery, though. I mean, come on.
Let's wake up and smell the coffee here, because of course we are. And so I just, when it takes Bill Maher, who is an extreme leftist, but he's also honest in his approach to telling Democrats the things you're doing out there are stupid. And that's the word he used. And tearing down monuments, he said, they even tore down one of Lincoln. And he's shouting at the Democrats, how crazy can you get? And so if you're going to continue, it's not that you have different ideas, it's that you have stupid ideas. And really, it's amazing that Fetterman and Bill Maher are the voice of reason from the Democrat side. That's astonishing.
Well, and it's not even so much that they agree with us. They might have different reasons for their beliefs. Who knows? But the fact is, destroying history in any time is bad. Look, if there's history that we don't like, if we want to explain that Christopher Columbus was involved in slavery and he was wrong for that, by all means, tell the truth. Tell it like it is. Same thing with all kinds of leaders. You can tell their bad sides and their good sides and say they weren't perfect. They were partly a product of their generation or of their time, so some of it may not be their fault necessarily. But we've learned and we've lived and we've grown past that, and we accept the good they brought to the table and we reject the bad they brought to the table. And that's true across the board, Sheriff.
Well, it is. It is entirely. And I hope that I get some good interviews. I'm going to CPAC, and I hope I get some interviews about this while I'm there. And we're really promoting some people that need to be free. And one is Tina Peters, as you very well know. And there's a new one there, Sam. You need to look this guy up. Joby Weeks. Weeks. Joby Weeks.
Jobey?
Job, B as in boy.
Joby Weeks, okay?
Yeah. And you need to look him up, and we need to really either get him on your show, because do you know what he's had? The most cruel and unusual punishment of any person I've ever known. He has been in solitary confinement in his home. He's been on home arrest with an ankle monitor for 6 years. Never been outside his home.
Whoa.
In 6 years. Yeah. And he's going stir crazy. But this is the most outrageous miscarriage of justice since Tina Peters. And it was happening during that time too. But Sam, I am so fed up with a government that thinks it needs to go after people who have not committed crimes. Tina Peters never committed a crime. Joby Weeks did not commit a crime. The only thing he did is he found a way to manipulate the system of other alternative currencies, Bitcoin and the like, and make a lot of money doing it. There was nothing illegal about what he did. They tried to charge him with monitoring, or not just monitoring, but selling securities. Bitcoin and those other alternative currencies are not securities. So
there ain't nothing secure about them, folks. Just so you understand.
And it started under Obama. Yeah. So.
Well, the abuses continue to go on, ladies and gentlemen, and violent criminals continue to get let out on the streets over and over and over. As last time the good sheriff was with us, we highlighted that guy in Las Vegas, literally 35 times arrested. Now they're debating, and the sheriff's standing up, and good for him for being standing tall on this thing. But those guys go free, and good, honest people that are safe in society seem to get the absolute shaft. And sadly, that's even happening under the Trump administration, and it's got to stop. But I want to talk about Pittsburgh, California really quick. It's a suburb about 40 miles from San Francisco. It relies heavily on what they call the Bay Area Rapid Transit, known as BART, for commuting.
Pittsburgh,
yeah, it's called, well, yeah.
But it's the same same name.
Yeah. Anyway, and this place relies heavily on their transit system. The problem is that now no one wants to ride the trains because they're so dangerous and unsafe. And so they've passed a new sales tax to force people to pay for them. And because of COVID, people moved far away and relied on BART and everything else. And now it's a big old meltdown, Sheriff. And my response is it just goes to show why we don't believe in government transportation, Sheriff.
Yeah, and Governor Hochul, how do you say her name? Hochul, in New York is begging rich
or whatever
people to come back. Please come back. Why did you ever leave?
Please come back and get raped over taxes so we can, are you insane?
Who's going to come back because you're pleading? They left because you're an idiot. Okay.
They left because you're taxing them into oblivion, and people realize it's money into a black hole. Right. The only way that it's going to make any sense is when they start to realize that they've got to realize government has a very narrow, limited role to protect life, liberty, and property. If you don't do that, what good is government in the first place?
Well, then we don't need you. We don't need you.
And that's really where the buck stops. Ladies and gentlemen, but you can get behind your constitutional sheriff. You can help support your sheriff when he keeps the oath of office that he made. We can help him understand due process and his oath of office, and we can train the American people to understand their role, and then the sheriffs to understand their role. And you know what? Solutions come straight out of that formula. If you want to be part of it, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association is for you. You can go to CSPOA.org. You can get the Supreme Court case pamphlet we've been talking about and get kind of a summary so you can understand the case, etc. You can also get some of Sheriff Mack's incredible books highlighting the proper role of law enforcement, the County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, Are You a David, and more. And you can also join the posse. When you join the posse, you help fund what we do, which is educate public officials all around the country about the vital principle called due process. Due process of law for everyone. Doesn't matter if you got a D or a R or an elephant or a whatever, cartoon character as your mascot. None of that matters, folks. All that matters is we care about you as an American citizen, and you have God-given inalienable rights, and the sheriff needs to be sworn to defend those rights. And if you're here illegally, you still have some God-given rights. A little different, though, in how we handle it. And so we need to peacefully restore the republic, and we can do so with this incredible partnership we speak of via the CSPOA.org. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, Sam. It's great to be with you, my friend. See you soon.
When the good sheriff gets back, he's going to report on CPAC. He's going, and he'll give us the breakdown next time he's on with us. So get ready for that one. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. I'm Sam Bushman. LibertyRoundTable.com. LibertyNewsRadio.com. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.